Welcome to Thoughts for Change Makers. I'm adding a special episode. So, Thoughts for Change Maker is a place where we challenge the status quo, elevate performance, and foster exponential growth. Today, I'm with a special guest, Natisha Dingle, two-time female speed skydiving world champion. She is currently living on the drop zone in Queensland and training full-time to give herself the best chance to defend her title for the upcoming championship in North Carolina this October. And I was thrilled to meet her face to face last time I was going skydiving. So I'm always interested to understand what makes people start falling into skydiving. So could you share a bit more about that journey, please?
I went to Careers Expo when I was 15 years old, and there was like the Army, the Navy, all the job careers, and then there was a guy with stands set up saying, if you give me $10,000, you can be a tandem instructor. And I thought, wow, what a cool job. I never thought about that as a career. And he gave me $25 off a voucher, and then I saved all my money. I worked after school. And I took it to my mum and said, could you please take me to the drop zone? So I did my first tandem when I was 15 and then solo when I was 16. And then I didn't even realize you could compete probably for another 10 years. I was just having fun with my friends at the drop zone. And then I started competing, which was when my skydiving really progressed.
Mm. And, I'm aware that in skydiving, we have different disciplines.
Mhm.
How did you come up with competing for speed skydiving? And could you explain to the listener what is speed skydiving anyway, please?
Yeah, so speed skydiving is you jump out of the plane, so from exit to 7,600 feet below the exit altitude. They record your speed. So it's the top 3 seconds in that window. So you could be going and then go out of it, but it's the top 3 seconds average over in the window. So the aim is to reach the highest vertical speed in that time frame. Yeah. So just we dive out of the plane, head first, basically heading towards the ground in like a pencil dive, I would suggest. Like maybe a teardrop is the most aerodynamic shape. So we try to make ourselves as streamlined as we can. And then we have a fly sight, which is a GPS device that records all the data. And that's what the judges plug in, get our data, and that's what we're judged on.
Mm.
And I got
Okay.
into I got into competing through a four-way event. They had a fun four-way event at the drop zone, and then me and myself and another friend and I decided to compete. And two coaches that were the best in Australia at the time offered us their free time. So we paid all their expenses, like flights and jump tickets, but they donated usually they get a day rate as well. So they donated a year of their time. So we thought it would be crazy not to seize the opportunity and learn as much as we could in that time. And we ended up competing with them for 3 years, I think. We did 3 hours, 36 hours in the wind tunnel and about 500 skydives together. And we also employed Joey Jones, who's the best four-way coach in the world, or I might think he is anyway. So we kind of thought, if we're going to progress quickly, we're going to get the best coaching that we can, and to maximize our money. Like it might cost you more up front to get a really good coach, but I think the key points that they can give you outweighs getting a mediocre coach for a longer period of time, I believe.
Mm.
So all about quality over quantity.
Love it. Quality over quantity. So invest so that you get the best. Yes. And I really like to talk about performance in general. And I'm seeing you as an athlete, and I'm curious. So how over time maybe you worked on your mindset, or what is a routine you're going through that maybe when you're out of the plane or even just in the plane before jumping, How do you work on yourself to make sure that you are gonna be performing at the peak performance level?
Yeah, so I've done life coaching for maybe 6 or 7 years, and I learned how to be a life coach. And then I thought, if I'm going to value it as a career, I'm going to pay for my own coaching. So I got coached for a year, and then I have friends that we check in with, and I still do. Every good coach should have a coach. So sometimes it's hard for us to see our weaknesses from within. So sometimes it's easier with someone else is helping us navigate our own pathway in our brain. So life coaching isn't about telling somebody what to do or how to do it. It's about them helping them realize it for themselves, because until we want to learn the lesson for ourselves, we're never going to hear it. So I think that's really changed my mindset. So you can release any limiting belief or negative emotion. So when fear or doubt comes in, or they're not good enough feelings, which we've all encountered at some point in our life, then I do a healing session, or I get outside counselling if I need to. So in the lead up to my first World Championships, I was actually going through a breakup, and one of my friends coached me for that. We did weekly sessions the whole time I was in America for the 3 months, and that really helped me overcome all the things that are coming up, because a lot of the time when we're feeling rejected or things happen in our life, it's because our inner child needs to be heard, basically. So I did a lot of inner child work, and I'm big on energy. So when I'm in the plane, I used to balance my chakras in the plane, but now I just do it with my crystals before I get in the plane, so that I am not using up all my headspace in the plane. So and then last year I invested in a breathwork coach. So I did some work with Flow Institute Australia, and we that was really good because it got me to a point of relaxation a lot quicker. So I could just do my breath work in the plane. And then my coach that I was working with the first time, I press my belly button at the door and just imagine like a golden energy guillotine cutting off all negative energy to me, because you don't know who's sending it, whether they're sending it subconsciously or not. So just, kind of cleaning the slate so that it's really just me and my performance and myself in the jump. And then I call in everyone that's ever loved me. Let's go fly and have some fun. And yeah, so whatever makes you calm and centered, everybody will have their own protocol, and each year it evolves and changes. So like I said, the first year I balance my chakras and I ground myself in the plane, and then I do all these things, and now I put that step earlier, and then I focus on something else. And something I tell myself is I do PBs in training and I break records in competition. So I tell myself that in the plane as well. Power posing is another really good quality. So if you put your hands up, especially if you're tired, it makes you feel positive and happy and confident, like you could tackle the world. If you're feeling like slouched over and slumped, it has the opposite effect. So especially if it's round 10 of the competition and you're exhausted, well, we actually have 8 rounds, round 8, and you're exhausted, and just before you exit, you do that. It just makes you feel really confident and gives you that extra boost. So there's lots of techniques that I use. I use essential oils, I use crystals. Last World Championships, I was doing the crystals on myself, and then I had a lineup. Everybody wanted me to do their crystals. So it's also important not to exert too much of your energy on competition day, because there's always going to be external influences, like the weather could be bad. When the first time I had serious competition, like when I was maybe caught off guard, I knew I had competition. Everybody there wanted to tell me I had competition. So everybody wants to try and get in your heads to see how you're going to react. And I just took myself away, meditated, did my crystals, listened to a meditation. We actually had a 4-hour weather wait as well. So she put up a really good score. Then I had 4 hours of weather. So I had 4 hours to think about it. And I could have let it get in my head and doubted whether I can do it and all of those things. Or I decided to channel that nervous energy into performance. How can I harness it, let it flow through my body, and how can I make the best performance I can? And I actually broke my own world record on the first jump. So instead of letting that upset me, I used it to my advantage. So healthy competition is good.
Yeah, and I like how you explain how you cut the noise, like how maybe distraction, the outer world can be very disruptive, and you are very aware of that. And your strategy is to make sure that you protect yourself, you protect your energy, you have boundaries, that you really stay top notch in terms of energy. And even the waiting time. The waiting time is, it seems like the more you are waiting, the more things can get into your own head as well.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, I learned a lot from my coaches in the four-way. So they really were big on maintaining your energy. And our very first competition, we only had 10 jumps together. We did 2 hours in the wind tunnel and we broke an Australian record, which was 25 points in time, which another team also tied with. So we both broke the record. And I think we were 2 points ahead or they were 2 points ahead by the end of the day. And we were just stoked. Like we were just buzzing off the walls. And I was like, I don't know what you mean about energy. And then the next day we had 5 more jumps to do, or maybe 4, and we were just exhausted. I was exhausted. I was lying down unless I was getting ready to go on the plane. And it was a big, it was like a pivotal moment where I was like, oh, that's what they meant about the energy. So it's like, if we can maintain our own energy instead of like, I'm very social. So normally at a day on the drop zone, I'll talk to 300 people. I don't care. I'll talk all day. But every time you're talking or you're exchanging or you're listening to somebody else or you're doing something, you're giving away a piece of you. So on competition day, I don't really talk unless I need to or it has a purpose. So that's what another coach said, like, don't worry about the weather. If you can't control it, forget it. Because, and that's a big one for everybody in everyday life, because we all worry about these little outside influences. But when I focus all of my energy on the task that I want to complete, miracles happen. So I really want to learn how to harness that in my everyday life as well, so that, if I want to work on abundance, then, I can manifest that quickly. But it seems, and I probably could if I focus all my energy on it. So there's lots of things that it can relate to. But yeah, I learn a lot from them, and like what you eat, like nutrition on the day. I don't eat sugar before like the last load basically, or I don't really eat sugar anyway, but if you were to have some chocolate or a lolly or something to pick you up, you don't want to do it at 10 a.m. And this is good for office workers as well. You don't want to start your day by crashing and you're chasing that high all day. So like maintaining your energy levels, you might have a handful of nuts or a drink of water in between loads. So just being mindful of how you feel. And sometimes when you can't control what's on the drop zone, the food choices aren't always the best. So maybe go prepared and make sure you have snacks and fruit and things to keep you going in between the larger meals. So
and I'm sure as well sleeping patterns. So sleeping, eating well. What do you do with sleeping?
yeah, I try to get at least 8 hours a night. Sometimes in competition it's hard because I might be staying at the drop zone. Sometimes I prefer to stay at the drop zone so that I don't have the added stress of getting to the drop zone. And if you're overseas and you don't have your own car, relying on somebody else for a lift. In Arizona, I just lived in the bunkhouse and I lived there for 2 months before the World Championship. So I was like, I'm not going to go and get a hotel room now and change my flow, but I will have earplugs if I need it. If people are snoring, or I listen to meditations and have things downloaded. Sometimes before competition, you might feel nervous anyway, and sometimes it's hard to sleep. But I felt extra pressure the first year because I had a few cash sponsors and people that had helped me along the way, and I felt like I'd been breaking the world record for about 4 years, but now it was my turn to shine basically, and everybody knew I could do it. My sponsors knew I could do it. That's why they were supporting me. I knew I could do it. Everyone else knew I could do it, but then I actually have to do it on the day for it to count for anything. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform, and it was amazing. One of my sponsors, Optimize Health, is a physio and podiatrist, and I went to him couple of weeks before and said, oh no, I've been doing like 420s all week, and I've been stressing out, but I was just trying too hard and getting in my head and letting it affect my scores. And he said, oh Tish, we just support you because we like you and we like the way you do things. We don't actually care what you put on the scoreboard, like just go and have fun. And it really changed the way I approached it, because I was like, actually, I feel privileged and humbled that they all believe in me, and I'm just going to go and show them. And the night before competition, I always get nervous, and I ring my sister for a pep talk, and she always says, she said, listen to a podcast about football players, and when it's game day, that's your time to perform. You've done all the hard work. Just go and have fun and just do what you know how to do. So I always ring her even now just for that same pep talk, because it really does work. Like, you put in it's like if you were doing a presentation, you put in all the work, you spent months preparing this, like all you have to go is go and deliver it. Like, you've done all the hard work. So trust your muscle memory and just fly. So I always seem to do better in competition. So I'm hoping I can pull it off again this year. But once again, it's like added pressure. Yeah. So I try not to stress myself out and perform.
Oh, yeah, but I think there is two type of stress. You have maybe the bad stress, but a psychologist as well call what we have as e-stress. And I think that's what you're tapping in. At maybe last minute, like you tap in your e-stress, which is helping you to be maybe top of your game. But I want to double click on something you touched on. If the people you surround yourself with, do you think, or are you intentional about who you surround yourself with? So you say, sometimes I need to vent, so I have this go-to person. And do you see which type of people like you need to surround yourself in order to, in fact, have kind of a crew and a team behind you to perform? Who are those type of people? What do they bring
So
to you?
every year I go to a retreat in Bali, and it's 12 days, and we do 4 hours of massage and meditate, and there's through my life coach, but there's like 8 women that we've all worked together for 5 or 6 years, and to have that support and non-judgmental space where everybody can release and do the work they need to, but it's just a very loving environment. So I feel like that's a safe place. And even when I was competing, like they did a meditation where they were all holding hands and like visualizing me doing things, and like just having that support behind me is really good. I have a really good family network. As you've seen on the drop zone, I have a very good support. And even I was worried going to America. I didn't know anybody. And within 2 months, I had the same support in a different drop zone across the world that I do here. So the Americans are making me green and gold pom-poms for when I got my medal. And, and they're lifelong friends. I'm actually going to visit them for 2 weeks on the way to this World Championships, because it's the same aircraft. So I'm going to train and also catch up with my friends, and making friends all over the world, networking, which you obviously do in business as well, is, some people don't want to talk to everybody because they think it's exhausting, or they don't want to make a connection. Whereas I see it as every time you make a connection, it's another opportunity. So even I'm talking to my friend's sister for 5 minutes at the drop zone, and then she had an accent. I said, "Oh, where do you live?" And she goes, "New York." I said, "Oh, I'm coming to America." And then within 5 minutes, I'm staying at a house in Long Island for a week, and she's going to show me around New York. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. So sometimes if you don't put yourself out there and talk to people, you're just blocking all the opportunities that could come your way.
Love it. So keep an open mind, talk with people around you. And I feel like, in the rise of digital, people are losing that interacting with people is a life skill, and having friends, having people that want you to succeed is in fact so helpful to do whatever you want to do in life. So having those people in the background that, you can rely on. And so I'm going to also click on something you said. So you've been training as well as a team.
Yeah. So, yeah, what would you like to know about that?
Yeah. So in your opinion, what makes a skydiving team successful? What are the key ingredients that needs to happen, that needs to be fostered? So it was 4 people in the team, right?
Yeah, there's 4 people in the team and a cameraman, and even the cameraman's very important. So you need to, because we usually pay for their slot, and they're kind of just catching the camera, but also if they don't catch the camera, if they don't video you properly, then you lose points. So they're one of the most important people on your team. And we did a lot of team mental practice for the team. And we probably should have included the cameraman as well at some point. But I think team dynamic, so you want to make sure you get along with them. You're basically spending all your time and money with them. So they explained it to us like you're entering a marriage. Make sure you like them, because, there's going to be testing times, there's going to be good times, you're going to spend a lot of time and money together. Making sure you have the same resources. I probably wasn't as financial as the other team members, and I remortgaged my house. I actually wrote my car off and got made redundant, so that's how I started. And I probably invested 70,000 in 3 years, which I probably could have paid my house off twice, all the money I've spent on skydiving. So if you have the same resources and commitment and time, that's what makes a cohesive team. And then being able to, one of the big things in four-way is you might make a mistake and it's definitely clearly you. Like, I might have forgotten a move, and then you feel like you let the team down and you don't, you beat yourself up or whatever. They really worked hard on, it's done, next. So we can't change the jump that's just happened, especially in competition. Like, when we're training, we'll debrief it and talk about why it happened and how we're going to improve. But in skydiving in general, I'm also an instructor. We never focus on the negative things. We might say positive, touch on the negative, and then finish it with a positive. And you always want to think about what you're going to do on the next jump, not don't bend my legs, don't bend my legs, don't bend my legs. You might say, I'm going to straighten my legs. So whatever we think about happens. So you don't want to re-rehearsing the bad thing in your head. You want to see a good picture and then do that. Yeah, I think, did that touch on that?
Yeah. So make sure you get on well with the people. And as well, it's also about resources. Make sure like you're on the same wavelength in terms of resources, time, commitment, finance. Yeah, okay. And the cameraman. Like, I wouldn't have thought that. And of course, this person is part of the team. So different roles, but part of the team.
Well, we were I love our cameraman, but we were going for a record. We knew it was a fast jump. We knew he was also jumping with another team. He was feeling a bit stressed, probably a bit nervous. And we probably didn't spend enough time in the lead up of how to do, how we just go to the next jump. We might have had a few other ones that weren't as good. We ended up just missing our exit frame, but we turned 7 points on the hill. So we actually didn't get the record on that jump, which he felt horrible about. And there was a news crew there and they were saying, oh, how does it feel to let the team down? I said, oh, please don't say that, because he's a part of our team and without him, nothing happens. So it is what it is. Let's move forward. So I feel like they're part of the team, and it's no different to me making a mistake, but he doesn't feel bad about it, then I do. So he's just as much as part of the team as anybody else. So you need to include them in that. Some cameramen get paid, so maybe then you get annoyed, but I was like, he was doing us a favor as well. We were just covering his slot. So yeah, very grateful for that. But everybody's an important part of the team, and I think it's a big thing not to dwell on the negative experiences. Like, even in the office, if somebody's making mistakes, then maybe try and focus on their strengths instead of their weaknesses. So me and my sister actually are very dynamic, and we run retreats together, and her strengths aren't mine and mine aren't hers. So we just, utilize each other for what we're good at, and then it's a really successful, easy weekend. So I feel like in a team environment at work, if you focus.
Oh, you're muting yourself. You muted yourself, yeah.
Oh, someone's trying to call me. Yeah, if we focus on people's strengths, then that's going to get the maximize the efficiency of the team. Sometimes if you're always telling them that they're wrong, it doesn't work. And I find this at work as well. Even if they're not showing initiative, if you compliment them on something, someone was, I watched the other day, I said, wow, you did an incredible job today? And he thought, I didn't do anything, I just watched. I said, every time I needed you, you were on the radio, you had all the paperwork done, you did everything perfectly. Thanks for your effort. And then the next day he came in, his attitude was totally different. He was engaging with me in conversation. And I think, wow, like just trying to maximize the most out of each individual is a key point for any business, I think. So
Yeah. I love what you just said. You know, that's it. It's like highlight the superhero power. Everyone got something. Focus on that, and definitely, like they will show up even better the next day.
Most
Yeah,
people just want to feel appreciated, and then they'll go above and beyond. But if you're always giving a 90% and sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you're always giving 90% and then one day you're 70 and they only focus on the 70, then you're not feeling appreciated for the rest of the time when you're giving 100% and you're feeling burnt out and not valued. Whereas if they just say, or maybe it's a time to check in if someone's not performing as they normally would. Hey, is everything okay? Is there anything we can help you with? You know, instead of, I think there's a lot of burnout in work, especially, and sometimes it just needs to be addressed.
Definitely. Yeah. And now let's talk about maybe setbacks. You know, when we are performing at your level, whether training by yourself in speed skydiving or when you were part of the team, any setbacks that you would like to share with us, and how did you overcome it?
Setbacks.
Challenges, difficulties, because nothing is a smooth ride in anything we undertake in life. So it's always about how we can tap into our resilience, you know. Things happen.
Yeah, I think when I was in a four-way team, like I said, I was the least financial of the team. And I spent a lot of time, sorry, my phone ringing. I spent a lot of time. So basically when I wasn't training, I was saving my money to train. So the rest of my year was a bit of a struggle. Like I ended up becoming an AF instructor because I didn't have money to fun jump anymore and I didn't want to not be at the drop zone. So I invested the $2,000 so I could get paid to be at the drop zone on the weekend. But that was a big taxing thing for me because I couldn't enjoy the other things that I wanted to do. Yeah, I don't know about. And then I invested so much money when I couldn't continue to invest the $20,000 a year that we were. I thought, oh no. And then our team actually fell apart because we had somebody from Canada and he couldn't make it over for visa reasons. And then we fell apart just before nationals and we actually got another two girls and spent another 10 grand trying to get to the same level. And then we didn't quite make the world championships. There was another female team that beat us and it was in Australia that year. So we were really kind of disappointed. I was feeling kind of heartbroken. And then my friend Shane Turner said, oh, would you like to try speed? And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to nationals this year. Like I haven't tried before. And they just changed the device. So I would have automatically, we were the first country to compete. So I would have automatically become the fastest woman in the world. And I chose not to go that year because I was like, I haven't even tried it. Like I'm not doing it. And then one day I was in the pool and I was like, actually, I'm going to give speed a go. This was about a year later. And I just thought this could be an opportunity for me to still compete when I have children in the future. If I do the foundations now, then it's my way of staying in the sport later. And then I had this revelation where I was like, oh, I've invested all this money in a different discipline. Like, is it going to translate? And then nothing's ever wasted. So if you invest in yourself in whatever you do, it's going to benefit you at some point in your life. So I was like, oh, I've wasted all this money. Maybe what am I doing? And then I was driving along one day and there was this big tree stump and then there was like a new tree blossoming in the middle. So I think birds must lay seeds in the middle of the tree or whatever. So it was like, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. It's like all the foundations that I've put in, all the money that I've spent on my belly is like, now it's my time to blossom and I can do it in this new discipline. And I basically got sponsorship straight away because the first competition I was only 30 k's away from the female world record, and then I got some sponsorship, and then it all kind of led from there. And I love competing. I love speed, and all the information that I've learned from the 4-way stuff has like translated and put me on the upper hand for the mindset. So all the years I competed, and then it wasn't lost. It wasn't not valued. It's like produced me to be a better, because you don't learn these lessons until you've done them, right? So unless you compete, unless you try, unless you fail, you're not going to learn the lessons. So it was all worth it.
Mm. And now I'm sure like people in the audience as well, and maybe that's how I should have led at the beginning. It's about fear. Like, when we talk about skydiving, whether you do it with a team, whether you do it alone, it's about jumping out of a plane. So now, even now, after how many jumps now, roughly?
I think I've got about 2,060, so not that many.
Wow, that's huge. What's your relationship with fear now?
I wouldn't say I feel scared. If I have a malfunction or something's a close call or there's something out of the normal, I would probably get fear, and you feel your heart pumping and you get the adrenaline again. But now I'm just in the plane and I think, oh, can't wait to get out and fly. I'm going to do this. What am I going to work on? So I think I just don't think about the dangerous aspect of it, because I'm quite good at manifesting. So I don't think about, I'm aware of the things that can go wrong and I know how to deal with them, but I don't play it over and over and over in my head, because it'll probably happen, right?
Yeah. And again, it's a sport that if you can mitigate the risk, it's pretty safe.
Yeah, it's a very calculated risk, and most of the accidents in skydiving could have been avoided. It's like they talk about the Swiss cheese scenario. So it's like all the holes in the cheese, and it could be you're tired, you're hungry, there's something going on in your personal life, you've missed doing a check or something, and it's not until all the holes line up that there's a fatality or something serious happens. So I think it's really being conscious of the control you have over it. And I urge people, like, if you're not feeling it, don't do it. So a lot of base jumpers that have accidents that have lived to tell the story, they all tell me, oh, I climbed up there, I wasn't feeling it that day, I jumped anyway. If your gut's telling you not to do something, probably don't do it. Unless it's a hell yes, and your whole body's going, yeah, I really want to do this, don't do it. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Sorry, I kept saying. But I think it's that's a big thing. And then making sure that you've got your energy levels, you've eaten, you've hydrated, you're not too tired. All of the things that could lead to potentially something bad happening. If a question I ask myself is, could I be bothered having a chop today? Like, if I'm too tired and I can't be bothered to pack, can I be bothered to deal with the violent malfunction? If the answer is no, then I probably shouldn't jump. If the weather's bad, and especially if you see all the experienced jumpers not going, don't get on the load. Like if people that are always at the drop zone and they know the weather patterns and they're not getting on because it's really windy or it's turbulent or each drop zone has different landmarks, so the wind direction could really change the way that the landings could be. So if all of the people that jump there normally aren't jumping, it's like, okay, well, we'll call it for today. When I first went to America, it was like 12 o'clock and everyone stopped jumping. And I was like, why has everyone stopped jumping? And they're like, oh, it's really hot. There's dust devils. And then you see in the distance, like massive dust devils. And if they pick up your canopy, they could just suck you up or drive you into the ground. So if the locals aren't jumping, I don't jump. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
There's always the sky tomorrow. It's never, when you first start jumping, you're just so eager. You go, let me get on the load. And the more you jump, the more you go, oh, actually, there's always tomorrow. And by keeping yourself safe, there is tomorrow. So
exactly. Yeah, safety is paramount in this type of sport. And that's it, like as you mentioned, for the base jumper, like Sometimes, you spend 6 hours, 7 hours to climb the cliff, and then you're on top of it. And maybe something like the weather is not that good. But we go into the sunk cost fallacy sometimes in life, because when you put energy, effort into something, it's hard to say no or to quit. But then it's about building this mindset or this resilience, about knowing when to say no, no matter what amount of effort you put in just before, because skydiving will always be there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I tell all my base jumping friends that go for the season. And I'm like, listen to yourself, be safe, climb down if you want to. Love you, bye.
Yeah.
I get nervous. Yeah.
And what about decision making? So do you feel that, and do you see that in fact it's a sport where we have to make these quick decisions? And what's the relationship with decision making and skydiving? Like, do you have any rules, principles that
Yeah, I
you've
think
been? Yeah.
having a clear plan in your head. So like when we learn we learn the situations that could happen and what we're going to do, and we have our emergency procedures. And then you could go away and then you could forget to do your emergency procedures, or I'm not sure when I first started, if I took them for granted or I wasn't valuing them enough. But now I touch my handles 3 times. I touch them before I get in the plane. I check them while I'm in the plane. It's good practice to check them while you're in free fall to know what it feels like. Don't pull them unless you need to, but just to feel them and look locate, do your procedures. I think it's really important. And then we have a hard deck, which is, the lowest altitude that you're going to before you're going to use your emergency procedures. So even if you have a malfunction that's, you can probably get out of, if it's a line twist or something. But if your hard deck's already gone off, that's the altitude that you don't want to not, that you want to chop at. So even if you think you can sort it out, you don't know if it's going to sort out in 500 feet or 1,000 foot. So if you've set yourself a boundary and a hard deck, regardless, if you don't have a good canopy above your head, do your emergency procedures. It's $100 repack or $200 probably now, but your life is more valuable than anything. So I think it's not saying, oh, I might be able to fix it, or someone said, oh, did you chop that? What did you chop that for, or whatever. It's like, actually, that was my hard deck, and I've done it before. I just got out of line twist, but it was still turning, and I maybe could have just flared twice and it could have came good, or I might have still had a tension knot and that could have sped up my thing, and then I still have to chop, and my hard deck had just gone off. So I decided to chop, which I'm happy with my decision, because even my downward trend sponsor me, and he was like, well, your hard deck, and that's it. So your decision is the best decision, and that's the decision you made. So I think being confident in your decision making and not second guessing yourself, because sometimes you have to make quick decisions, and knowing why and how, especially in like 2-out situations, knowing what to do. And we won't go too much into that, but it's good to have it in your mind of what you're going to do in each situation.
Mm.
And it's the same with, you might be jumping with your friends and then something else happens and you get distracted, and then they've done this, and things are always changing. So having the awareness around you to be able to perceive what everyone else is doing, because it's not just you in the sky. Is everybody else being safe? Can I pull my parachute? Have I got enough airspace? These are all things that we ask ourselves, and we should be thinking of every jump. So I think being aware and making decisions to best support yourself can relate to anything in life.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, Tish. We are coming to the end of this interview. What would you like to leave our people with? Like any piece of wisdom, insights that is currently resonating with you and like you like to share?
I just think that everybody has the power to achieve anything they desire.
Very powerful. And now we can only wish you plenty of success for the next competition. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to follow your journey and see what's happening in that space. And by the way, if people want to know as well, what's going to be the best way for them to know what's happening in North Carolina in October?
I would say probably follow my Instagram, Tisha_Ray, and or Natisha Dingle. I'm on Facebook as well. So yeah, I think I usually just post on social media, and then you can follow the links, or the APF website might be a good one. So they often, the Australian Parachute Federation, they'll put the scores up, and then you can follow the competition along, and then hopefully I'll be on the news with some good news when I get back.
Exactly. On the news, rocking it, and coming back with lots of wisdom to bring back in Australia.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.